Hello everyone, Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching. I have another Monday quarterback video for you. I'm going to play the entirety of this video without any interruptions, and then I'll go back and talk about things that are going on to better explain what's going on, and talk about things that I think that were done right and or done wrong. Without further ado, here we go.
On the afternoon of February 9, 2022, an officer-involved shooting occurred in the 5100 block of Pierce Road in Oildale, California. The following presentation is intended to help bring context to the facts surrounding this case. The following presentation contains a map of the location of the incident, radio traffic, body-worn camera video, surveillance footage, and photos of the scene. Some of the audio and video has been edited to protect the privacy of the victims involved and to avoid the release of information that state law prohibits the Sheriff's Office from releasing. The redactions and edits do not affect the depiction of events presented in the video. Some of the audio and visuals we're about to present may be disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. On February 9, 2022, at 1:10 p.m., the Kern County Sheriff's Office received a 911 call from the 3200 block of State Road for the report of an armed subject assaulting a family member.
Do you need medical aid, police, or fire?
No, the guy's running around here with a sledgehammer trying to beat up everybody.
Is he white, black,
He's
or
knocking
Hispanic?
people's windows out and everything. His name's Devan.
Is he white, black, or Hispanic?
He's white.
How old is he?
Say 30 years old. He's knocking people's windows out and tearing trailer up, all kinds of stuff.
Where is he at now?
He's running down the trailer park, calling people out of their trailers. Yeah, he beat his brother up.
When,
He
today?
beat me. Yeah, just now.
At 1:19 p.m., the Sheriff's Office received an additional 911 call requesting deputies respond to a business in the 3200 block of State Road.
911, what's the location of your emergency?
Yeah, I got somebody here with a sledgehammer and with a knife. He told me he'd give me a chance to be nice. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he picked up his sledgehammer and told me to put down the phone. I was like, well, when he said that, I was like, sir, you need to leave. I'm going to call the cops. And he told me to put down the phone and grabbed the knife and went across my stomach, but it didn't cut me or nothing.
At 1:21 p.m., deputies located the suspect walking northbound on Pierce Road. Deputies gave verbal commands over the PA system telling the suspect to stop, but he refused. Deputies activated their patrol vehicle's lights and sirens and followed behind the suspect. As deputies continued to give verbal commands, the suspect began to run. The following video is from a surveillance camera showing the suspect walking away and refusing deputies' commands. The following video is from the department-issued body-worn camera of a deputy at the scene.
Devan, stop! Don't get yourself in any more trouble, bro. Just stop and drop the knife and drop the fire extinguisher. Subject's igniting the fire extinguisher, starting to run.
The suspect ran into a business yard in the 5100 block of Pierce Road. The suspect entered a guard shack next to the entrance gate and took an employee hostage. The following video is from a surveillance camera inside the guard shack, showing the moments the suspect ran inside and took an elderly male victim hostage. Please note, no audio was captured. The following video was from the department-issued body-worn camera of Deputy Austin Burgess. Please note, the body camera does not capture everything the deputy sees, and the deputy does not see everything the body camera captures.
Hey, somebody in there?
Back away!
Dude, you gotta put that down.
Back away!
We'll back up. Put it down.
Back off of me now! Go! Put your weapon away! You're fucking with me! I'll fucking stab you! Go!
Go, go. Go.
Okay, are you okay, sir? Are you okay? Are you okay? Hey, are you okay, sir?
The suspect, identified as Devan Moore, age 25, was pronounced deceased at the scene. The hostage was unharmed. Here's a closer look at the suspect's knife. Homicide detectives responded to the scene to assume the investigation. Deputy Austin Burgess was placed on routine administrative leave pending completion of the investigation. The Kern County Sheriff's Office Homicide Unit investigates any use of deadly force by any member of the department. Their findings have been submitted to the Kern County District Attorney's Office for criminal review. On March 7, 2022, the Kern County Sheriff's Office convened an incident review board examining the use of force in this incident. The use of force in this case was determined to be within department policy.
All right, let's get into this one. Okay, so the police respond...
To avoid the release of information that state law...
Oops, let's bring that volume down. It's a little loud. So police respond to a call involving a person who is allegedly assaulting family members and is causing property damage with a sledgehammer, knocking windows out. You would be surprised by the amount of incidents that occur where family members assault other family members. You would think that family wouldn't be assaulting each other at the rate that they do, but it goes on. And there could be a multitude of different reasons on why this occurs. The bandwagon approach that everyone is jumping on now, and it's just constantly being called out. Mental illness. Oh, he had mental health issues, blah, blah, blah. That's becoming annoying because it's being overused. Not everyone has a mental health issue. All right? It's getting to the point where people who run stop signs. Oh, I had mental health problems. All right, like, let's tone it down a little bit, okay? Not everything is mental health problems, right? Like, and it's not just that. It's also as if it's an excuse, as if that the person is now exempt from any kind of consequences. Oh, I cut her head off and chopped her hands off and cooked them and ate them. Mental health issues. Yeah. No. No, that's not what's happening. Are there people with mental health issues? Yeah, absolutely. Quite a few of them. I've taken some people to the crazy hospital before. Western State. There are some legit fucking crazy people. But to have this blanket response of saying that everyone has these mental health issues is bullshit. Now, this particular guy, I don't know exactly what's going on with him. The only news reports that I can find are talking about the releasing of this video and the incident that it occurred, and they basically all kind of say the same thing. I've gone to the Kern County Sheriff's Office Facebook page, and there was a person who commented on there, and just like just in true fashion, like a lot of people connected to these people will do, they'll say shit like, well, you don't know the full story. Okay, please fucking enlighten us what the full story is. That happens almost all the freaking time. Or they'll say stuff like, if you don't know the full story, you need to keep your mouth shut. Okay, whatever. And that's how this person starts this comment out. So this person, Jenny Dawn, comments, "None of you know the full story!" Exclamation mark. Yes, he was in the wrong for holding him hostage, but as always, there is a but. Had a mental illness, and we asked the police for help 3 days before, and they said they can't do anything till something happens, then they killed him. That was verbatim what they wrote. Great way of giving us the full story there, Jenny. That helps. So, I mean, what kind of mental health issues can a person be having that cause them to attack family with a sledgehammer and go bust out windows? I don't know. I mean, they're obviously, if this was a suicide by police kind of thing and he was wanting to die, or if he was suicidal and he's wanting to die, well, there's a bridge right there at this call that he could have went to and jumped off of and got ran over by 18-wheelers. I mean, it looks like an interstate right there. He could have very easily just jumped off and then got ran over. It looks like maybe these are train tracks off here to the bottom left. I'm not 100% sure about that, but they could be train tracks. I mean, if he was really committed to dying, he could have went and stood on those train tracks. So I don't think this is a suicidal kind of thing, so it's not that kind of mental health thing. Beyond that, I mean, I don't know. There's not enough information to fully speculate about what's going on. Some people start fighting family members over the goofiest things. There are some people who are drug addicts, and they're like leeches, and they'll just keep getting money from their family, dollar after dollar after dollar after dollar. And finally, sometimes family are like, no more, you're cut off. And then those people, they flip their shit and they attack them. It could be something as stupid as a person who was living with a family and they're finally saying, hey, you're going to have to get out. Like, we're done letting you live here for free. It's been 3 years and you still haven't got a job. Like, you need to do something. So there's things like that go on. Other things that, some of it revolves around money. Money is a big thing that causes tension between people. And so family member could be owing money to someone. Family member, and sex is another thing too. Family member could be screwing, their loved one. Who knows? Multitude of different reasons. And when you get into mental health stuff, someone who is throwing a tantrum and just going off, I don't buy this mental health thing. They're just someone who needs to be put in their place, and they have not been put in their place like they should have in life. They've been allowed to act stupid without consequences. A dog that continuously knocks over the trash can and rips trash everywhere has obviously never learned a lesson. They've never felt pain because they continue to do it over and over and over. Until you interject some pain as a consequence for them doing that, they're going to continue to do that stuff. And that's really the base problem for why people do this kind of stuff. Alright, so you throw your temper tantrum and no one does anything to you. You never learn a lesson. And so you do it again, thinking that you're going to get what you want. And sometimes people will they'll cave into that. They'll give them what they want so they'll stop. Well, what's that do? That positively reinforces to that person that they can act like a little shit and get what they want. But anyway, I don't know the full reasons behind why this guy did what he did. I'm not thinking it's a suicide by police thing. You know, he didn't charge at them or anything like that. So I don't think he wanted to die. I think at the point there, he was trying to evade, trying to get away from the police, and that was his only choice there, is to get a hostage to keep the police from taking him. So, like I said, if this was a guy who was suicidal, he had some options before the police ever got there. We got a bridge with a highway; he could have jumped off of it. It looks like train tracks down there in the lower left. And when the police were there, he could have simply charged at them like some of the other ones do, who want to die by suicide by police, who are actually suicidal. They'll just run at the police with a knife, and then the police will shoot them. So I don't think it was that kind of mental health thing where he was suicidal or anything. Anyway, moving forward. So police get on scene and they find him. Well, he refuses to stop, and he's walking with his little fire extinguisher and his knife. The reactionary gap here. So he is not that far from these cruisers. So let's say he stopped walking and turned around and faced them. The officers are going to stop, throw their cars in the park, and they're going to get out. Before they could ever get out fully, all he has to do right now is very abruptly do an about face and start running at that cruiser. And probably be able to get to that officer before that officer can pull his gun out and do anything. If that were to happen, the officer's best course of action is, as this guy comes to the driver's side door, just hit the gas pedal and blow right past him. And then he's going to have to deal with the other two right there. So I think that there needs to be more of a reactionary gap between them and the suspect, because he can too easily just turn around and run up on them really quick. Even if he comes to a stop and then they start to come to a stop as the officers throwing the car in the park, he could very quickly start charging at them and start attacking before the officer can multitask to get the car in park and get his gun out of the holster and get good, accurate, incapacitating rounds on target. I think they could have been a little bit further back. When the officers get out, finally, of course, all they have are pistols. And that's common, and I talk about that a lot in my videos, how officers neglect to get their rifles out more often when they should. And I'll go into that a little bit. So if you're going to a call that involves gunplay, rifle needs to come out. If you're going to a call involving a person with a knife or another deadly physical weapon and they are causing harm to others, deadly physical harm, rifles and shotguns need to come out. This is not you're going to come up and walk up with your clipboard and take a report from the guy. Like this is not that. Like this is fight. This is fight mode right now. And when you're going to a person who has a propensity for violence, has been acting aggressive and hostile towards people, has deadly physical weapons or deadly instruments on them, you have to have a long gun, because it could turn to a deadly physical confrontation in the blink of an eye. And because it has a higher chance of turning into a deadly physical confrontation, the rifle is needed, because that rifle will stop that deadly physical confrontation faster than a pistol ever can. Now, this probably ain't the greatest time to be saying on this video, because this officer gets an amazing headshot on the guy. So that kind of, in a sense, kind of makes my point a little moot and null, but just bear with me on this one. Generally, when, the officers aren't fucking crack shot ninjas with their pistols, generally, officers have to end up firing multiple rounds from their pistols to get the desired effect. And that's because pistol ammunition is pretty weak. When you start firing into someone's torso and you don't hit that critical area, well, it's not going to be putting them down very fast. Whereas a rifle, even if you don't hit square middle in the heart with a rifle, but you still pop them in the chest somewhere, they're going down. Like, that is going to be hurting them. That is going to cause a lot of devastation. That kinetic energy from that rifle cartridge going into them is going to be hellacious. It is going to do more damage than a pistol cartridge ever could. And it is imperative to stop the threat as quickly as possible, because you don't want them continuing to be a threat. You don't want them to be shot and then be able to scurry off and take cover and start getting into a gunfight with you, exchanging rounds, them continuing to run, etc. You don't want to allow that to happen and put other people at risk, put other officers at risk, etc. So rifles need to come out more often, because it takes less rounds from a rifle to drop a person than it does pistol, unless you're like this officer and you can do headshots. If you watch enough of these videos, you'll understand what I'm talking about. And I wish officers would get rifles out more, but it's just not happening. And there's a couple major reasons why I think that's happening. So it's not like it's just one reason why this is happening. It's kind of like a mixture of stuff. Number one is the fact that officers are not getting in the gunfights every single day. So the average day for an officer is kind of boring, especially day shift. It can be some traffic stuff and doing follow-up reports and a lot of report writing, a lot of bullshit. There might be a hot call every once in a while, but it's not like what Hollywood makes it out to be. It's not like what was that show? Live PD. It's not like it's action every single damn day. There are some days where it's boring as shit. So there's no need for officers to be getting into the habit of pulling their rifles out on every call, every time they go to something, because it obviously never ends in a shooting. It never gets to that point. And there are officers in this country who go their entire career without ever having to shoot anyone. There's some officers who, and it's not a lot, but there's some who actually go their whole career without ever having to point their gun at someone. Now that's a little bit different. I think that well, I'll leave that one alone. But there are plenty of officers out there who go their entire career and they never have to shoot anyone. So you got all scores of these officers on a daily basis never needing to have to get their guns out. And so they never build up that muscle memory of or habit of getting the rifle out when they get to a call. So when you go to mundane day after day, and it's the same, you just pull in, throw the car in park, get out, and go. When a hot call happens, what are you going to do? You're going to do what you did 1,000 times before. You're going to throw that car in park and get out and go. And you got your pistol on you. If it was the reverse, if officers were getting in the gunfights every single freaking day, then there would be a change, because they would start to realize that, hey, these pistols suck, and they would want to go to rifle because rifles dominate. But obviously that's not happening because the police just are not getting in gunfights every single day. Now, when you look at the national level, it does appear that there's quite a few police shootings. But when you look at the local level, there's not. I mean, think about your local agencies. When's the last time they got involved in a shooting? And if it was actually recent, then try to think before that time. When was the last time before this recent shooting that they got involved in a shooting? Lots of places, it's very far and few between that agencies are getting involved in shootings. There are some agencies that probably exist out there that have never had an officer-involved shooting. And then there's some where it's been years since they've had one. So it's that builds into this culture of never having to go to rifles, having to get rifles out. So they never develop this, instinctual mindset of, oh shit, some serious shit's going on, let's grab the rifle. The other part to it is training. And I think there is a lack of good tactical training, instilling a fighting mindset with the application of rifles. So, yeah, of course, officers go through handgun training, rifle training, shotgun training, and it varies all across the country, from coast to coast. It varies a little bit. Some of them follow the same kind of principles and whatnot, same kind of standards, but the instructors vary widely, and exactly what they teach can vary a lot too. And I think that it's just a lack of proper training and getting people put in the mindset of grabbing rifles for hot calls. And some of that, like I said, it's driven by instructors, and you could have older instructors in these instructor spots. So, I mean, you could have people who are near retirement who become instructors. They only got like maybe 10 years left, less, something like that, and they decide to take an instructor role or something like that. There's some who got in pretty early, and that was their ticket of doing Monday through Friday and never having to work nights and weekends. And so they never really spent a whole lot of time out, real world application. And they're regurgitating what has been taught to them in-house. So it's almost like an echo chamber in a way. When you think about, tactics and things from the 90s and stuff like that, there's some people who still follow that kind of stuff, like clearing buildings with a pistol versus a rifle. Back in the day, you did that stuff with pistols. And people would say, "Oh, you don't use a rifle to go do building clearing. It's too big; it gets in the way." That's not true. So, if you put your back against the wall and you have a measuring tape coming from the baseboard going out between your legs and going out some, and you take a pistol and you take a two-handed grip and you have a light on the ceiling shining down, and you look down to see where that shadow is at for the muzzle, and you measure that off, and then you take a rifle and hold it and measure it the same way, you're going to find that there's not that much of a difference within the length. You holding a pistol, two-handed, arms extended, the end of that muzzle is going to be pretty damn close to the muzzle of a carbine that you're holding, shouldered, in a firing position. It's going to be off a few inches, but that's nothing. That's negligible. I mean, it's not even worth mentioning at that point. I mean, it's not like we're seeing a huge difference, like by feet, by meters. It's just a couple inches of a difference. When you have your handgun presented out, the muzzle will be pretty close in line to the muzzle of a rifle that you have shouldered when you measure it from your back to the wall. So you can clear buildings with a rifle. And you should be clearing buildings with a rifle. If you're going into a building clearing, that means you're going in there after a person. And that person may want to fight you and not go to jail. That person may be armed. Do you want to go to a gunfight with a pistol, or do you want to go to a gunfight with a rifle? You want to go to a gunfight with a rifle. And that's what I tell people. If you know you're going to a gunfight, bring a rifle and bring your friends with rifles. So we have the fact that officers aren't being put in positions to always have to go to rifle is kind of a culprit leading into their muscle memory, so to speak, or maybe lack thereof, of just not getting rifles, and then a lack of really good training that would instill that good, proper fighting mindset into people. And the reasons behind why the failing of the training occurs can also be multifaceted. It could just be that they're just regurgitating the old stuff. The standards and the curriculum stuff is there, but the officer or the instructor doesn't really go into it the way they should, don't harp on it, and they just do kind of the bare minimum stuff with the qualifications with the rifle and whatnot. They just go through the basic, this is how you run the rifle, this is how you do the reloads, etc. Anyway, so how could these officers have gotten rifles into play? So I have no idea how their cars are set up, and if they even have rifles in those cars. If they have rifles in the cab and they're in some type of locking mechanism, then as they've pulled up on scene, they could have very easily, while still in the car, disengaged the rifle from the locking mechanism, charge it, and put that sling around their neck and have it dangling there right there in front of them. And then if they need to dismount that vehicle in a hurry, or just need to dismount the vehicle altogether, they can dismount with the rifle there on them, and they're going to have it and put it into play. If they keep the rifle in the rear of the vehicle while en route to this call, they could very easily pull off to the side of the road, get out, grab the rifle from the back, get back in the cab, charge it, sling it, and proceed to the call. It's not going to take 10 minutes to do that. Like less than a minute to do that. And so you're not adding an absurd amount of extra time to your response time. It will not take that long at all to hop out, grab the rifle out of the cargo area, get back in there, charge it, sling it, and hit the pedal. And then that would allow you, once you get on scene, to be able to quickly dismount the vehicle with a rifle and get that rifle into play. So if they had rifles in the vehicles, then they should have got them out and had them prepared and ready so they could dismount. So, like I said, I don't know if they had rifles in the cars or not, but if they did have rifles, then this is a kind of a failing point at this point. A negative review. You know, they should have had rifles ready. But like I said, I don't know if they had rifles in the cars or not. Obviously, they're in marked vehicles. It's obvious to tell that they're the police. They turn their lights and their sirens on. That's very obvious that it's the police now. I'm sure they've identified themselves at this point. The guy's continuing to ignore them and walk away, and he ends up using the fire extinguisher as kind of a smoke screen to kind of get away from them.
Subject's ignited the fire extinguisher, starting to run.
The suspect ran into the entrance.
So kind of an interesting tactic on his end to utilize the fire extinguisher as a smoke screen. And, it didn't really work very effective. I mean, he's kind of in a bottleneck of sorts. He's on a road that appears to be surrounded by these fences, and so where's he going to go? Like he can't run left. He can't run through a fence. So he's only kind of like on a track. He's on a one-way road, so to speak. So throwing up that smoke screen was kind of useless, but still interesting nonetheless from his aspect. And again, that kind of goes into why I don't think this guy was suicidal. I think he was just trying to get away from the police, and he ended up going into this route. So this area that they're at, this appears to be some type of commercial/industrial property. If you look to the upper left corner, it appears to be pallets of some sort over there. See some blue objects, looks like tanks or something. You see a semi-trailer parked in this little roadway right here, and then in the property that they're at, you see a couple of semi-trailers. You kind of see a third one in the very far right, and then you kind of see like a little pole barn kind of structure in the background. So it's some type of commercial industrial property. And of course we have this little guard shed right here. I wouldn't be surprised if this location is within an area that is like an industrial complex. This is the typical kind of businesses around here. And so this guy in the guard shack, although they call it a guard shack, I don't really consider this guy to be security. He's obviously not dressed like security. He don't appear to have any security equipment. He's just in a guard shack. And for businesses that deal with semi-trailers, it is typical to have a shack at the entrance that a person sits in to be able to check vehicles in and check them out. So it's more like a clerical position. I'd much rather hear them referred to as the clerk shack or, the paperwork shack, something. I don't think calling it guard shack, or security guard shack is the most accurate thing to be calling this, because, they're not performing, in my eyes, they're not performing actual security duties. They're just a clerk's position, pretty much. They just deal with paperwork. That's it. So, the shack, its appearance is not surprising to me at all. The employers typically don't spend a whole lot of money for their security personnel and people who are outside of the office. So it is literally just a shed that has no freaking insulation in it. You can see the space in between the studs. There's no insulation going on. We do see an air conditioner in the window, but it could be broken and it doesn't work. And that could be the reason why he has that door open, to be able to get an airflow going in there, because the AC don't work. I don't know. There's not much else in this room. You've got paperwork sitting on a filing cabinet. You've got some coffee mugs up on the window frames. Looks like a folder of some sort above the AC on the frame of the window. Looks like a master lock hanging on the stud right above the air conditioner. Looks like you see his jacket up there by the front door. And then to the right, you see some stuff hanging by the window frame. One thing looks like a stick with a lanyard on it, so almost like a little billy club. And then there's some curved object. It looks like it's mounted to the stud, possibly for hanging items. We'll go to the other angle, and he's got a TV in here. Of course, he's got his chair and a a little table-looking thing. Looks like a little fridge right here in the background. A little coffee mug-looking thing. There appears to be a tent thing up here in the back corner that, they probably are able to pull out and keep outside the shed when they're busy. So very minimal stuff in there. And of course, when you see him come out, he don't have anything. He don't have anything to defend himself. And so this is a pretty common, typical thing for quote-unquote guard shacks. Just someone sitting inside this little building waiting for trucks to come so they can check them in and out. And, what they do is when let's say a truck comes in with a trailer, they'll take the paperwork from the driver, and then they may go to the back of the trailer and check the seal on the trailer that should have been put on there when it came from wherever it came from. And their paperwork will mention the seal number on there, and then they'll check the seal, make sure it hasn't been broken or anything like that, and they'll sign off on it, and then the person will go drop the trailer and leave. Or if it's an outgoing trailer, same kind of process. They'll check the paperwork, check the seal, see if it's on there correctly, or they may be the ones responsible for putting the seal on there, and they'll lock that trailer and sign off on the paperwork, and then the person leaves with it. And that's it. That's the majority of what they do. They don't really perform actual real security duties. So this guy's not equipped with anything to defend himself. There's really nothing in there that he could defend himself other than maybe grabbing a coffee mug or that little thermos thing and hitting someone with it. And maybe this little wooden stick looking thing that's on the wall, or I said I thought this was a coat. This actually might be another tent-looking thing, or this could be a stick right there. Not sure what that is. So he don't really have much of anything to defend himself with. So that, and his job, for the most part, is just waiting there until a big semi-truck pulls in. So he's sitting there, he's chilling, he's in condition white. Like, it's obvious. He's got his feet propped up. He's browsing through his phone. And this guy comes up on foot and takes him by surprise. I'm sure that this dude would have said, he came out of nowhere. And there's not much that this guy could have done to protect himself from this surprise attack, so to speak. Could he have had the door shut and had the AC running? Sure, he could have had that. If he was armed, would it made 100% of a difference? Maybe, maybe not. Just because he is armed doesn't mean he's going to be proficient at it, because if the company can't pay to have this freaking shed insulated and give him more than a freaking doghouse to be in, I can guarantee you they're not going to pay for this guy to go through firearms training and be proficient at it. Like, they might just say, well, we'll do a qualification course once a year, fire 10 rounds, and you're good. Like, that's the bulk of what these kind of places would do. They would not put him through any serious firearms training. So just by him merely having a firearm on him wouldn't have necessarily had made a difference. Unless he was the type to go train and practice on his own, then he would be proficient at it. So not much this guy could have done to prevent this from happening. And this guy comes in with a knife, starts to take him hostage. While the officer, very quick, they start to approach around through here. Meanwhile, this guy is actively resisting the dude with the knife, trying to save himself. You see a worker come around the corner, kind of rubbernecking, trying to figure out what's going on. He figures out that, hey, maybe I need to go somewhere else. Then you start to see the shadows of these officers starting to come around. So I'm going to hit play, and I'm going to hit rewind a few times. I want you to pay attention to the suspect's head. Pay attention to his hat area. I'll replay it multiple times, but just watch his head. Headshot. That's a good shot. It is. That is a damn good shot. They're both moving. This guy's swaying a little bit to the left or the right. The hostage, he's moving too. And the hostage's head is not that far from this guy's head at all. The officer is outside here. He's out in a well-lit area, and he is aiming his gun into kind of a little shadowy box in here. And although I can't really tell you for sure what the distance is between him and the officer, it's still a distance of some sort. I mean, they're not super close by any means. And this officer is most likely experiencing a huge adrenaline dump, fast heartbeat, and yet he is able to make a headshot under those circumstances in this distance with a handgun. Not only does he make a headshot, but let's play this a little bit longer. This time, I want you to pay attention to this kind of region right here in the screen. You're going to see some blood pop out after this officer fires his second shot. And I believe that his second shot is another headshot. All right, you can see it spewing out right there. So from here, you can still see some of the smoke coming out of this officer's gun. The distance, yeah, it's not that far. He's a lot closer now. But still, this guy is in a falling position. He's moving downwards, and this officer makes another, what I think is another headshot. That is outstanding. That is great performance on this officer's end. I would not be surprised at all to find out if this officer trains and practices on his own outside the department time. Would not be surprised to find that out at all. Would not be surprised to find out that he is a top performer within his class. When it comes to firearms training, I would not be surprised to find out if he does better than the rest. That he invests himself into that training. He fully commits himself to that training. Be a great student, an exemplary student. Not just there to be there and get a certificate because of his mere attendance of it. I would say this guy applies himself in classes, asks questions, practices on his own, and just fucking dominates at his skills. And I say that because of what I'm seeing here and what I see most commonly in other police shootings videos. You see a lot of misses occur in police shootings. You see a lot of rounds hitting pavement and not hitting anywhere near anybody. So you see a lot of missed rounds. And I'll talk about that in videos to kind of explain why that occurs. It's not like I'm trying to justify it and say, hey, it is what it is, but I do try to explain hey, this is how this is happening. That way people have a better understanding of why it is happening. And it mostly has to revolve around training, pretty much. When the police get hired, when people get hired as the police, they go to the academy. And at the academy, there is some block of instruction on firearms and tactics. It varies all across the U.S. Some places are pretty similar to each other. Some are a little bit different. Some are, totally different, whatever. But it varies. And it's usually not a short event. It's usually, a few days, a week or 2 weeks, and they're firing more than just 50 rounds. Like, they're firing hundreds of rounds, if not, a couple thousand. And that is some of the best firearms training that they'll ever get in their career, because that can never be replicated again unless their department has some type of special tactics team and they get on it and they get to go to SWAT school or whatever, or if by some amazing thing their department approves for them to go to some type of commercial firearms school and go through a 2-day class. That doesn't really happen a whole lot. There's some small agencies out there, maybe some larger agencies out there that may do that for some people, and that's awesome if they do. That's great. But the majority of them, they just can't do it. They don't have the money for it. If they are sending people off to commercial firearms training schools, then they're sending their instructors off so that they can become instructors themselves in something, like a train the trainer kind of class, and then they'll bring it back to the department, or they're going there to get takeaways and bring it back to their department and put it into their training curriculum and how they do their in-house training. It doesn't happen very often, but it does happen in some places. But for the bulk of the officers, they'll go get their initial firearms training at the academy. About a week-long kind of a thing. Fire hundreds of rounds, if not thousands, like, high thousands, but at least, a couple thousand rounds or so. And then they go back to their agency. And once they go back to their agency, they may qualify at minimum once a year, or they may qualify twice a year, 3 times a year, 4 times a year. It really depends on the agency and their budgets. Aside from that, they may do some in-service training with their firearms, but it will never be the same intensity that they get at the academy. When they go through the class at the academy, for that whole week, that's what they're tasked with. They have no other responsibility other than probably doing PT and formation bullshit. Other than that, they don't have any other responsibilities. Firearms training week is just that. It's firearms training. They're not doing anything else. When they come back to the academy, or when they come back from the academy to the agency, and they end up having some type of in-service class for handgun training, that's usually going to be done at the beginning of their shift, at the end of their shift, or maybe sometime during the middle of their shift. And it's a short block of instruction. It's not very long, because the agency administrators are worried about costs, overtime, and stuff like that. So, and that kind of stuff typically goes on for the qualification stuff. They'll do that during the shift. If they have something that's going to be a little bit longer, they may work some schedules around and get people through it. But they're not going to be spending, generally, they're not going to be spending a full 2 days going over pistol stuff and firing, for each officer firing no less than 700 rounds. It's just not. If it's happening somewhere, then fucking awesome. Amazing. Those administrators need to get pats on the back and get their balls tickled if they're able to get their officers to do that. If they're able to get the finances to let their officers do that, then awesome. But it's just not happening. So same with rifle stuff. They're not going to be spending in-service training doing a whole 2 days of rifle stuff and firing no less than 700-800 rounds. It's just not happening. So it's usually like not even a full day. Sometimes it's sometimes maybe half a day of of this training, and they're not firing a whole lot of bullets. So they will never get the same training. Well, let me back up. They'll never be able to replicate the same training and block of instruction that they got when they went to the academy. And so for many, many officers, that's the best firearms training they're ever going to get in their career. Unless, like I said, their agency sends them somewhere, or they end up paying out of pocket to go to some commercial firearms training class. And that just doesn't happen very often. There's officers out there who do it, but it's not very widespread. But you will find officers who will pay out of pocket. They'll go take a commercial firearms class, pay somewhere between $300 to $700 for a 2-day class, pay for 1,000 round case of ammo, pay for their hotel, pay for their travel, their food and all that, and be out a couple grand or so, and it's just them paying for it. There's officers out there who take that commitment, who make that commitment, but there's not as enough as there needs to be. And I would not be surprised to find out if this officer is one of those kind of people. Wouldn't be surprised at all. Not in the least bit. So yeah, his performance, the way he's able to make those 2 shots under those conditions, like I said, it tells me that he's probably taken his training serious. He's fully invested himself in it. Does really good in classes. Is a great student, and I would not be surprised to find out if he trains and practices on his own dime outside of agency time. You can also notice his proficiency here. So he not only does he shoot good, but watch his muzzle discipline. Like, he is very conscious of where this muzzle is pointing. He does a great job of keeping it off to the left there. Good trigger discipline as well. He's keeping his finger off that trigger. Like, this guy's good.
The following video
that
is from
just
the Department.
That just doesn't, come very natural with a lot of people. And like I said, this is why I think that he's probably a top performer, does good in his classes, fully invests himself, and would not be surprised to find out if he does this stuff, practice and training on his own dime.
Away! You're fucking with me! I'll fucking stab you! Go! Go, go! Go! Go, go! Go! Go, go! Go, go. Go. Go, go.
All right, so you can see right here, it looks like he's got a little waterfall going on here with the blood. So yeah, this officer was spot on. Good shooting, real good shooting on his part, and the guy here, the victim in all this, who was taken hostage. Just think, like, here's his head. That suspect's head was right, probably about right in here, not that far away from his own head. Super close together, super close.
Go.
Okay, are you okay, sir? Are you okay?
So I'm not sure what the guy's looking at. He's probably in shock to some degree. I mean, he just got taken hostage, had to fight for his life. Some dude had a knife to him, and then boom, gunshots, and he might have a little bit of blood on him. That might be what he's looking at. I'm not really sure what it is that's going on with him.
Okay, are you okay? Are you okay? Sir, are you okay? Are you okay? Hey, are you okay, sir?
The suspect, identified as Devan Moore, age 25, was pronounced deceased at the scene. The hostage was unharmed. Here's a closer look at the suspect.
So that's a decent sized knife right there. That would definitely kill a person. It's not like he had a little tiny pocket knife or nothing. Not much else to say about this video. Yeah, that's a wrap. So if you like what you hear and see, go ahead and give me a like and a share. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more Monday quarterback videos. Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense, thank you for watching.